Cinema is widely discussed as an artistic endeavor, but at its core, it is an industrial manufacturing process. In the modern Indonesian film industry, this manufacturing process has produced a highly visible phenomenon. Specific actors are relentlessly cast in identical roles, particularly within the tropes of religious polygamy and infidelity. Inside the industry, this practice is formally known as penjenaman actor, or actor branding and typecasting. Audiences frequently view this repetition as a symptom of creative bankruptcy. But behind the scenes, this repetition is a perfectly calibrated manufacturing strategy. The relentless recycling of tropes is a highly efficient, perfectly rational outcome of the current ecosystem's design. Creative stagnation in Indonesian cinema is a deliberate byproduct of institutional survival. Actors like Fedi Nuril, anchored to religious dramas, or Davina Karamoy, locked into infidelity plots, function as physical artifacts of this larger institutional system. To understand how this system operates, we must evaluate it through the lens of public administration and political economy. The creative ecosystem is governed by strict regulatory frameworks, specifically the parameters of state censorship and national economic laws. Actor branding and genre fatigue are the direct results of bounded rationality, of signaling theory, and flawed state tax policies. We can trace this chain of cause and effect by moving from the micro-level choices of individual producers up to macro-level government policy. To fix the output of the creative economy, we must first reverse engineer the bureaucracy that engineered it. We begin at layer 1, the micro-level. Here, the film producer acts as homo economicus, an economic agent whose primary function is mitigating extreme financial risk. This equation governs high-risk creative investments. Net benefit equals the probability of success multiplied by the benefit minus the cost. C represents the production budget, and B is the box office return. But the entire formula hinges on P, the probability of success. Casting an established actor in a proven narrative trope drastically increases this P variable by eliminating unproven variables. This behavior illustrates bounded rationality. Because producers lack the time, resources, or perfect information to find the absolute optimal artistic choice, their decision-making operates within strict cognitive limits. Instead of optimizing, they engage in satisficing. Satisficing is the act of choosing the very first option that meets the minimum threshold of financial safety. Producers do not seek the best film, they seek the statistically safest product within their limited information horizon. Layer 2 introduces information economics and a fundamental flaw in the film market itself. This diagram illustrates information asymmetry. A consumer must buy a movie ticket in a blind transaction, without knowing if the film will actually meet their expectations. To bypass this barrier, producers utilize signaling theory. This academic document explains how signaling reduces uncertainty. By providing verifiable credibility, signals help overcome information gaps between producers and consumers in the Indonesian market. In this context, the actor ceases to be an artist and becomes a brand promise. An actor known almost exclusively for religious dramas signals to the audience exactly what moral conflict they are paying to see. This consistent signaling significantly lowers the consumer's cognitive search cost in a crowded digital market, providing a reliable shortcut for their purchasing decision. Typecasting is a highly effective heuristic tool deployed to guarantee audience trust. Layer 3 scales our model up to institutional behavior, shifting a focus from a single film's production to the entire industry. The cycle begins with a critical juncture. This occurs when a massive, unexpected box office hit establishes a new industry standard. This success creates a lock-in effect. Investors suddenly refuse to fund unproven genres, demanding rigid replications of the critical juncture. This triggers mimetic isomorphism. Mimetic isomorphism is a sociological process where organizations in uncertain environments blindly imitate the behavior of successful peers to appear competent. Rival studios copy the exact same formula to minimize their own financial exposure. This mechanism actively punishes studios that attempt to innovate outside the established groove, starving new ideas of necessary capital. The market's demand for risk mitigation aggregates into industry-wide content stagnation, trapping cinema in an endless loop of identical films. Layer 4 examines the public policy and administrative environment. How does the state interact with a locked-in market? The Film Censorship Board, or LSF, operates on a dialogical paradigm, encouraging a culture of self-censorship based on existing cultural norms. Consequently, religious and family dramas are the most administratively safe genres. They pass through the bureaucracy without friction. Concurrently, state fiscal policy is pushing for tax incentives and payroll tax subsidies to boost the creative economy. The crucial flaw in these policies is that broad tax incentives are easiest to access by large studios, executing proven low-risk formulas. Well-intentioned fiscal policies meant to accelerate the creative economy are accidentally subsidizing the stagnation of the status quo. To break path dependence, the government must shift its administrative focus from subsidizing volume to subsidizing innovation risk. Currently, the industry is a highly centralized, monolithic, and risk-averse ecosystem concentrated in the capital. It requires distributed networks to evolve. A viable regional policy solution is the creative hub model, leveraging data and development strategies seen in areas like South Tangerang. Regional hubs diversify talent pools, lower overhead costs, and reduce the barrier to entry for non-isomorphic narratives. Geographic decentralization dilutes the concentrated financial risk that enforces typecasting in the primary market. Permanently restructuring the industry's incentive structures requires a macro-administrative framework. This diagram shows the Triple Helix model, an innovation framework built on the overlapping spheres of academia, state, and industry. The adjacent text outlines the government's role as a catalyst. The state must push companies toward competitive innovation, rather than protecting existing monopolies. A thriving creative economy cannot be engineered through risk-averse bureaucracy. It requires policies that actively protect uncertainty. True growth in cinema happens only when the state stops underwriting the safe repetition of past successes and starts absorbing the risk of tomorrow's innovations.